Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Thessaloniki Helexpo Forum in one more discussion of ours, which is very interesting. The topic of our discussion today is exhibitions versus the pandemic, physical and digital interaction. My name is Vangelis Moisis, I'm a journalist and I will be moderating this discussion in which we have distinguished guests as well as the host of Helexpo. We are having with us Mr. Varbitsiotis, who is the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. We have also got with us Mr. Yannis Bournos, who is the alternate head of European
Πολιτικής και Ανάπτυξης του Υπουργείου Τουρισμού. Θα έχουμε τη χαρά να συνδεθούμε με τον Διευθύνοντα Σύμβουλο της Έκθεσης Πολωνίας, τον κύριο Τζέραλντ Μποές, και τον Πρόεδρο της Fiera di Roma, τον κύριο Pietro
We will also be linked with Mr. Pedro Pizzinetti from Rome, who is the Fiera di Roma president, and with Mr. Gerald Boyce, who is in Germany, and he is the CEO of Köln and Messe. We will also be linked with Mr. Phil Kafarakis, who is the former president of Specialty Food Association and Global Food Industry Senior Advisor. We have also got with us Mr. Kyriakos Pouzrikidis, who is the Manager Director of TIF Helexpo SA, and Mr. Theodoros Vokos, who is the Managing Director of Posidonia Exhibitions. I won't talk too long, but I would simply like to say that TIF Helexpo, even before the pandemic, was trying to handle a challenge, that is to find a balance between the digital transformation of modern economy and the need for physical presence and contact between colleagues, partners, consumers, between products and customers. Thanks to the possibilities provided to us by digital transformation and has been accelerated by the hygiene crisis, one can truly understand the results of a pandemic in an exhibition industry, which gives 90 billion euros as income in Europe and is related with hundreds of thousands of employment posts. Mr. Varbitsiotis, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, will be with us shortly. So I will start with the speakers in the order that I presented them. So I would like to give the floor to Mr. Yannis Bournos, who is the alternate head of European matters from Syriza, who is also a member of the Greek Parliament. I would like to ask all speakers to speak for 5 minutes only. Mr. Bournos, you're having the floor. May I take off my mask for the presentation? Yes, all speakers are allowed to take off their masks. First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to participate in this discussion. The COVID pandemic has caused indeed special and unfavorable conditions for international exhibition industry. But let us all be optimistic. Let us hope that this pandemic won't be permanent and that the following TIF won't be the same. When the COVID pandemic goes away, it will leave its mark in the attitude and behavior of peoples. It will have affected the behavior of people to be able to shake and embrace themselves and embrace each other. And this will affect several sectors of the economy significantly. Digital transactions have soared and hybrid education platforms. there are also positive aspects in this hygienic crisis. It will leave us with a permanent feeling of alertness and responsibility. We will have learned that our attitude will affect other more vulnerable groups of people. This has happened in the countries of Eastern Asia that have faced a hygienic crisis in the past. They have taken their lessons and now they are at a better condition to face the COVID crisis, both at the level of state and at the level of social groups. So despite the increased cost, we should undergo all these changes. And who knows, in the future, after taking all these measures and finalizing them and making them permanent, this might make us more resilient and resistant to other types of flu. The characteristic of this pandemic is that the countries that have a high globalization index are more vulnerable to this coronavirus. That is, countries that are the heart of people going in and out and products coming in and out. Even in Central America, the levels for the spreading of the virus were those cities where we had a lot of commercial activities. That's why we must find a radical new way of setting up international exhibitions. I'm convinced that we can achieve that here in TIFF Helexpo, and I'm sure that our people here at TIFF have the responsibility and ability to make the necessary changes and create a feeling of future safety in the future exhibitions, because it's not an option to stop exhibitions. Exhibitions play a significant and vital role in the growth of countries like Greece. During the first wave of pandemic, we didn't have a high number of cases simply because we are a level of low globalization index, especially in winter, because we're not a high tourism destination in winter. That is why we need international exhibitions and to host them with great participation and to invest in our participation in other countries' exhibitions, because this helps our businesses to get into the map, because we don't have the chance that other countries of Central and Northern Europe have to access foreign markets. The Balkan dimension of the region should not be underestimated. The small and rich countries of Central and Northern Europe are clusters of innovation and exchange of know-how. And the growth of Greece goes through the common growth of the Balkans and the exchange of any kinds of goods, cultural trade, and so on. And that's why the Prespes agreement was of top importance for our region. Let us now move on to the Belt and Road Initiative from China. This might be the catalyst to move on to other levels of outward looking for our region. The previous government by Alexis Tsipras saw that this was an opportunity so that Greece would become a gate to Europe, competing the ports of the Netherlands and Belgium. Our country has the possibility to become an even more popular destination for exhibitions all over the year, all around the clock. We had record number in exports, tourism, research and technology during the Syriza term. All this showed that our economy was on the outward track of transformation, and this would give a solution to several of the structural problems of the country in order to create a qualitative employment post, the increase of competitiveness and productivity that will raise the level for all sectors and will affect the less competitive businesses. This is the road for growth and development, and not the violent liquidation of businesses as it happened recently because several SMEs were characterized as zombies. The pandemics will be over, but it won't continue from the point where we left. The post-pandemic era will be different. We will have change in the attitude and behavior, in the way labor will be organized, in our consumer habits and in transports. We will have become familiar with hybrid forms of communication, both physically and virtually, as you have been doing here during the Thessaloniki Helexpo Forum. But what I see is that we will continue with some practices that have been going on for millennia in humanity, that is our behavior in the markets, because this is what exhibitions do. They move us forward to a better future of cooperation and prosperity. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Bournouz, the alternate head of European matters from Syriza. I'm really happy to see that we have been linked with Mr. Miltiadis Varvitsiotis, the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. Good morning, Mr. Varvitsiotis. Can you hear us? I'm really sorry that I cannot be physically with you today, although I have promised that to you. Unfortunately, the developments in the international challenges of our country forced me and the Minister of Foreign Affairs to be here in Athens in order to inform all the ambassadors of the European member states on that issue in view of the meeting of the Council of General Affairs that will be held next week, and that's why I cannot be with you physically. Needless to say about the role and significance that commercial exhibitions play, I would like to focus on the post-COVID era, because what has been understood recently is that it is high time to use other media about the way we perceive the world, communicate and participate in the international dialogue and promote our products. Undoubtedly, even in Greece, which was not one of the countries that was very organized both at economic and social level concerning its commercial transactions, great leaps have occurred in recent months. The increase of e-shops and the increase of internet campaign and internet consumption, even on supermarket goods, have conveyed the message that we're entering that era in which investment should occur not so much on huge infrastructures that could host tens of thousands of people, but to host internet and virtual presence. That's an opportunity for our country because we have missed several challenges in the past concerning its participation in the exhibition scene. Because let's not forget, with the exception of the very lively sale of the Thessaloniki International Fair, here in Greece, we haven't managed in other regions of Greece, and especially in Athens, to create this kind of infrastructure in order to host big events. I remember when we were preparing for the Olympic Games, we used to say that Taekwondo would be turned into a modern international exhibition center when the Games would be over. 16 years have passed since that time, but this has not occurred so far. although a lot of money was given by the European Union. So I believe that we should try to invest in the era to come, which is the empirical era. We do have the possibility and the potential. We have the people, the skills, the imagination in order to respond to this challenge. We, as government, have tried to respond to our task and duty. These days, we are discussing in the parliament the bill concerning the digital transformation of the country. This will include the digitalization of hundreds of public sector tasks, and the citizens will be able to participate in them. I have participated in 3 governments, in the government of Kostas Karamanlis, of Antonis Samaras, and Kyriakos Mitsotakis. In both prior governments, efforts have been made to digitalize the way that signatures are collected in a bill of law. You know that before the COVID time, all bills of law were signed on the same page by all ministers. And that meant that several parliament employees had to run here and there in order to find and meet the ministers and get their signatures. Nowadays, all these have been transferred digitally. I receive a message from the General Secretariat of the government telling me that the bill of law is ready to be signed. So just a few minutes is needed in order to collect and gather the necessary signatures for this bill of law. Of course, this should continue in order to be used in the other services provided by the Greek state. We have all been concerned about the way that these measures have affected our hygiene situation. A lot of insecurity has been caused among citizens about the situation in the education institutions of our country. I'd like to tell you that even nowadays we are at a very low index concerning the COVID spread in relation to the European Union countries. Regardless of the fact whether we achieve to have the opening of tourism, taking into account the tracing of cases that would be carried out by a central state mechanism that would be able to trace and follow up all the cases. Although some countries considered at first that wouldn't be possible, nowadays more advanced countries than Greece would like to adopt and use this central mechanism, and Germany is such a country. The result of that was that we had a limited coronavirus spread in our country. But if we come now to present days, we can see that the existence of a vaccination to fight the virus from the European front is not possible, because initial forecast was that by the end of this year we would have the possibility to use this vaccination against coronavirus, and the European Union had financed this research. However, we observe and we see that the next year, 2021, would be similar, at least at the beginning, to 2020. What is important is to see two things. First of all, how we will shape and form our tourism product so that the tourism interest for our country won't be hindered. This summer, I have received a lot of requests from third country citizens who wanted to come to our country and wanted to be facilitated to visit our country using the Ministry of Foreign Affairs procedures, because they consider that Greece is a totally safe destination. And there is a very positive image for our country, and we should preserve that. And we should try to keep this positive image that we have a safe country for faraway tourists and for our neighborhood tourists from the Balkans, from Bulgaria and Fyrom, and in order to visit our country and have the exchange of products so that Thessaloniki will become a hub in the region. One more thing that I would like to share with you is the following. We here in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we're trying to facilitate the tourist visits to Greece. We have already adopted the new form of visa called business visa. It has to do with business partners and visitors who will visit Greece following an invitation held to them by Greek businesses and companies in order to have transactions and visit our exhibitions. Several times there was great delay in issuing this business visa for Asian countries and third countries, and there were a lot of complaints expressed by the Greek business world. We have solved this problem with the new business visa. Similar actions that we have taken have to do with the production of films and videos so that we will have the opportunity to use our unique scenery all over the world. Finally, these days, we are holding the presidency of the Council of Europe. The Council of Europe is the warranty of the principles and values of Europe. This institution was founded 71 years ago. All participant countries, signatory countries, expressed their faith in democracy and human rights respect. And through the Declaration of Human Rights, this has become part of our legal culture. And this shows that Europe is not only an economic area, but is also advocating the defense of these values. Greece took over the presidency of this organization in May 2020. At the beginning, we had planned a presidency that would be focusing on the following generation of the Europeans in order to include more young people and make them being involved in that and try to protect them from these extreme voices that are very vividly heard in their voices due to the fake news and misleading information on the internet. But in the end, we changed our theme and topic. The last trip I had before the general lockdown was on the 8th and 9th of March in Strasbourg. There, the Council of Europe presented a general plan for education. After the lockdown, this theme was not relevant to what we're experiencing these days. So we changed our topic. Our presidency became a digital presidency. We had very few events with physical presence. We have opened a dialogue, a digital dialogue, and we bring speakers from all over the world, and we live stream those talks. By the end of our presidency, we would like to adopt, as Council of Europe, the Athens Declaration. The Athens Declaration will include in a legal document and text of ecumenical value and force, and this will happen for the first time, and will put forward the serving the needs of human rights in pandemic period. How we should monitor the restrictions imposed, how elections will be held during these periods, pandemic periods. Through the lockdowns, we had an unexpected limitation and restriction of human rights. We didn't have access to labor and work. There was lack of free movement. There was no access to justice institutions. Even electoral procedures were postponed, and they were postponed once again in Northern Macedonia. And although finally the elections were occurred, it took longer, and luckily the elections were held smoothly, and the result of the elections was not questioned. Mr. Verviciotti, if you allow me, because we won't have you with us later on, I would like you briefly to talk to us about economic diplomacy. What we know is that economic diplomacy goes beyond the limits of a roundtable discussion. Economic diplomacy, which is served to an extent by the mobility resulting from exhibitions, could be substituted digitally. Just a brief comment, please. My view, and what we all have realized, is that physical contact and physical communication cannot be substituted by any other medium, because what we have realized in the framework of the European Parliament, while we have teleconferencing and teleconvening, each one of us is standing before the camera and reads what has been prepared to him, and he doesn't have this side communication, the sideline communication, that is to talk with people in the corridors during dinner time and during the breaks. Therefore, it is important to preserve, maintain, and insist on preserving the institution of commercial trade fairs, trade exhibitions, and congresses. In the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we are transforming the way that our country has been participating in economic diplomacy so far. Up to the previous year, economic advisors, to a great extent, belonged to the competency of another ministry. It was the Ministry of Economy. But nowadays, they are part of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. in our effort to transform the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this is a legislative document which is at its final stage. We would like to create the National Agency of Outward Looking and to reinforce it with Enterprise Greece. We would like it to have European Union financing and to offer even more to the exports of Greece. But nobody should fool themselves. The brand name that a country has achieved and conquered provides it more credibility to the products that it produces. So what is extremely important is the Greek brand name, which has improved recently, because it has been obvious that Greece was a country that managed to handle the first wave of pandemic, and it appeared to be very well prepared compared to other countries that had much better mechanisms to handle this kind of issues. Secondly, the fact that the country has got an international voice in all fora. It has been negotiating with strong voice and sober voice. And thirdly, it promotes communications with countries beyond Europe, that is Mediterranean countries and the Gulf countries. All these create a positive climate. We will be here to help the business world of Greece, to help TIF in Thessaloniki, exporters and business people in northern Greece take advantage of all opportunities and try to see how we can continue the increase of our agricultural products that started in 2019, how we will be able to continue it and multiply it. Thank you very much, Mr. Varvitsiotis, for your intervention. May you be well. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to thank the Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Varvitsiotis. We talked a bit longer with Mr. Varvitsiotis because he won't be with us later on. Let us move on right away to Mr. Yorgos Frangidis, who is member of the Parliament of Kinal. He is the head of tourism development, because these exhibitions and fairs have to do with tourism development. We've got Mrs. Loizou with us today. Good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm very happy to participate in the Thessaloniki Helexpo Forum. The coronavirus spread has forced us to face unprecedented situations that have affected the whole of society and economy. Traveling restrictions, quarantine measures, lockdowns have caused a wave of uncertainty all over the globe and, of course, have shaken the world economy. The exhibition sector and industry could not have been affected. Hundreds of exhibitions were cancelled at European and world level due to coronavirus. The economic loss comes to billions of euros, and thousands of employment posts are at stake, mainly in Europe. Despite the huge economic blast that exhibition centers have suffered, exhibition centers have affected positively the pandemic period, because they have offered their grounds to be used for other purposes by hospitals. And in this way, they supported the economy, the local economy and society. The Thessaloniki International Fair is the biggest economic exhibition event in Greece and of great importance for the whole of the country. Its annulment had a great cost for the city of Thessaloniki, and that amounts to 50 million euros. The exhibition industry, in its effort to overcome the barriers stemming and deriving from pandemic, has been trying to find hybrid models of organization where we will have a combination of physical presence and digitalization. That is the participation of very few exhibitors and digital participation as well. The same is true for visitors as well. Recently, from the 3rd up to the 5th of September, we had the international radio devices in Berlin. And similarly, the International Trade Services exhibition that was held in China on the 9th of September. In India, we will have another exhibition from the 7th up to 9th of April in 21, where we will have a similar combination of physical and digital participation. Luckily, digital technology has been offering us this last resort solution, that is to have the organization of exhibitions where we will have both physical and digital participation. And in this way, we are adjusting ourselves to the new data. But I hope that this will not prevail in the future. Of course, there is a question rising whether this digital participation can substitute physical presence, or the combination of the two might have a good result. It is true that digital participation provides the possibility to overcome the restrictions that physical presence barriers had, for example, the cost and distance. However, nothing can substitute, in my view, the power and the force of physical presence, networking, exchange of views, contacts with potential clients, information and briefing for new markets. All these can better be achieved with physical contact. Physical presence allows you to look at your interlocutor at his face, to see the body language and start human contact with a handshake. The meeting of exhibitions on similar products gives the possibility to exchange views on these products and the possibility to develop projects and partnerships. That is, getting to know potential clients cannot be substituted by a digital relationship. Perhaps a discussion held, the chat that we have while drinking a glass of wine can never be substituted by digital technology. The creation of a friendly environment, as it is the exhibition pavilion and stand, where we have a pleasant discussion, a pleasant chat, and a warm environment, plays an important role in the development of business contact and transaction. In short, human factor and the feelings created by it will always play a decisive role, and in my view, technology cannot overcome it. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Frangidis, who is the member of the parliament from Kinal. We have a lot of participants who attend us on the web and they use the Thessaloniki Helexpo forum platform. I would like to inform our digital viewers that they can address their questions to our speakers by sending their questions to press office helexpo.gr. And we will continue with Mrs. Vicky Loiso, who is the Secretary General for Tourism Policy and Development.
Λόγω πανδημίας, κύριε Λοΐζο, φαντάζομαι ο εκθεσιακός και συνεδριακός τουρισμός αποτελεί μόνο ένα μικρό ή μεγάλο, εσείς θα μας πείτε, τμήμα της συνολικής ζημίας που έχουμε υποστεί φέτος.
Good morning. I'm particularly happy to be with you here. This is my first public presence as Secretary General for Tourism Policy and Development. And I'm very happy that this first presentation of mine is here in Thessaloniki, a city that I love a lot. There were a lot of partners of mine who were hesitant to the fact that my first presence should be here in this panel where tourism is going to be discussed. Tourism, a sector that has been greatly affected by this pandemic. But right now we might be facing the negative side of pandemic, but at the same time it might be an opportunity for us to set a strategic plan, an action plan, and not just a wishful plan about how tourism exhibition should be developed in Greece. It's a field that has a lot of opportunities. We are here to work with you, the government, local authorities, the private sector, and we could have a specific action plan in order to create a specific tourism product. This has always been one of the objectives of the Ministry of Tourism, that is to develop professional tourism, because it can provide us tourism all over the clock throughout the year. Besides, it is not isolated from the other forms of tourism. Therefore, if we are able to work systematically in order to put forward the systematic advantages that our country has to this field, and to work in order to improve our weak points, because we are aware of the fact that we're not perfect, there is still a lot of room for improvement. For example, a better promotion of our country and better infrastructure. So we could have a better diversified product that will be better environmentally friendly, and this has been promoted due to pandemic. And due to that, we had the new forms of conference and tourism, the digital tourism, professional tourism, and conferencing, these hybrid forms. So perhaps we could say that if we take advantage of this new model and having a concrete plan that will be developed by each party according to their competence, we will be able to make Greece competitive in this field, and we will be able to support and help our economy in total. Tourism is not just one sector of the Greek economy. Tourism is an integral part of the whole of the Greek economy, especially Congress and Convention tourism is linking the whole of the society, both the primary and secondary sector with tourism, because we cannot think of exhibition exhibition tourism and convention tourism being cut off and isolated from the rest of the Greek society. We should find ways to make a plan that will include and incorporate all the aspects of the city and the society where the event is held, the exhibition is held, the local citizens, the businesses, cultural and civilization. All aspects of a local area should participate in order to be able to have a competitive, modern exhibition product and congress product. We have best cases, examples of other cities that have taken advantage of conference and congress tourism. The pandemic shouldn't hinder us, it should mobilize us in order to work hard and make all necessary infrastructure so that Greece will be pioneer to that field. We should take advantage of the recovery fund and we should all work together in order to have the next day the new productive model of our country, as our Prime Minister says. Thank you, Mrs. Loizou. We have the pleasure to be connected and linked. Can you hear me, Mr. Boise? We have been linked with Mr. Gerald Boise, who is the CEO of Cologne Exhibition. Good morning. Can you hear me? Can you hear the English translation, Mr. Boise?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning. Mr. Boise, welcome in Thessaloniki digitally. I think we can hear you. We can better
once
hear
again,
you.
good morning to everybody from me here in Cologne.
You have
first of all, I must say that I'm very delighted that all representatives from the tourism industry and also from the government see the big chance that also trade fairs can contribute to the tourism sector in the respective countries. And I truly believe that the recovery after the crisis, there will be trade fairs will play a vital role in this recovery. So I can only encourage everyone to invest in this sector and also make use of the great recovery funds which have been put into place from Brussels. But first of all, as you know, Cologne is also a partner city of Thessaloniki, and these both ancient cities, which always have been in the focus of trade, have a great relationship over the past years. And of course, I want to say hello to my friend Kyriakos from Thessaloniki Fair, who is a highly respected colleague, and I really regret that Kölnmesse is not able to bring this huge German pavilion to your fair in September. So, you know, Germany would have been a partner country at TIF this year. And for us as Kölnmesse, the company was commissioned to organize the German partner country hall. And this would have been an exciting occasion in Greece. And normally I would be there now and accompanying the highly ranking representatives from the German government, like Mr. Altmaier and Mrs. Klöckner. But and at the end of our preparations for this exhibition, 60 German exhibitors had confirmed already their attendance. And of course, then the effects of COVID-19 intervened here as well. And I can only say that also my team was really hardworking to to get as good exhibitors to Thessaloniki this September, and we had an impressive pavilion with about 6,000 square meters gross space, and it's really a pity, and we are very sad that we cannot put this together. But not only this pavilion was hit by the crisis, of course, also our company. Maybe I can explain a little bit how Kölnmesse has a similar operating model like Thessaloniki, of course. So we own the fairground, but also we are organizing major events throughout the year. And we were hit by the crisis at the end of our historic record year in 2019. So then we had the recent months, we have been forced to postpone or cancel many of our events. And this has been, of course, very difficult for us, as we know how important trade fairs are, of course, for our customers. And that is why we are continuing to work on the relaunch. So the first physical events in Cologne are supposed to be held in November. The art fairs, Art Cologne and Cologne Design Fair. So the crisis of this coronavirus has, I think, only accelerated the digital transformation. And we heard the recent speakers mentioning the so-called hybrid events in the future. And I think now the crisis of COVID-19, that trade fairs need to currently undergoing change. And that is, trade fair organizers not only have to follow this change, but also to actively shape it. And digital events are helping us to learn for this future. So that means concrete for us that we are increasing through digital events and through hybrid events, we are increasing the reach for exhibitors and visitors on a digital basis. For example, we had to cancel all our exhibitions until end of October here in Cologne. Even the government played a very, very constructive role here in Germany and North Rhine-Westphalia. They allowed us actually up from June, July to organize exhibitions. But we have to say that our exhibitions in Cologne have such a high proportion of international exhibitors and visitors coming, of course, from so-called states where the infections are still growing, like US, like Asia, like South America. So we had a lot of cancellations from companies who were expecting to see exactly these visitors here in Cologne. So we had a great deal of discussions, and then we decided very, very strictly to organize, for example, our big show Gamescom, which is one of the leading shows for games and video. We decided to organize this only digital, not physical. And I must say we learned a lot in the preparations to this exhibition. And in late August, Gamescom marked purely digital form at our location here in Cologne. And in spite of COVID-19, millions of fans from more than 180 countries have not been physically here in Cologne, but had an opportunity to experience new shows and offers from more than 370 partners. So we had at the exhibition in good times in Cologne physically about more than 1,000 exhibitors, but we managed to get also for the digital version of Gamescom almost 400 partners. That is really encouraging. And that was not an easy task. And within 4 months, we really put a new digital exhibition together. But it was worth it. The digital Gamescom set a benchmark for the international trade fair sector. It was the exhibition with the highest digital reach worldwide. and it belonged to the 3 major digital events worldwide, not only exhibition-wide. So we had more than 2 million, for example, live viewers for the opening night live. That is more than 4 times we had last year. And we had in total about 10 million gamers, what I said, from 180 countries watching at the same time our platform Gamescom Now. So you can see that I think instead of canceling a physical exhibition, I think every organizer has the duty to make a proposal to the market, even digital. Otherwise, he would be written off in the customer base, and in our very demanding and ever-changing times, if you are 1 year not in the market, it could be that you are gone forever. So I can only recommend to everyone to keep in touch with the community, even on a digital base. Otherwise, you will get difficulties. So, but nevertheless, and this is, I think, a very important message to the ministry, to the all involved who believe in exhibitions, the echo from the community after a digital Gamescom was very clear. The community wants to return to the exhibition halls. They want to meet, talk, try out the games, and that is why we are planning Gamescom 2021 as a so-called hybrid event with full speed now. And this will, of course, enrich the festival feeling on location with exciting online content. So we will not stop working on the digital Gamescom, but at the same time, of course, we will do everything to put a physical Gamescom together. So the digital content and the digital part of our exhibition business will not vanish after COVID-19. It will remain a big chance for the exhibition industry to widen the audience and to go for target groups which are not able to travel from all over the world to the exhibitions to Cologne. But at the same time, the physical Gamescom is the emotional peak for networking of a whole community physically. So digital expansions are absolutely useful, and humans are social beings. Direct negotiations, the hands-on product experience, going to remain crucial elements of the business encounter, even after COVID-19. I'm completely convinced. That is why I firmly believe that, as I mentioned before, hybrid events are the future. So the trade fair business is going to remain exciting, and of course I'm looking forward to that, and I send my best greetings now to Thessaloniki Helexpo Forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boers. Are you going to stay with us for the rest of the panel, from the rest of the discussion? Or should I ask you a question right now? Mr. Boers, do you hear me? Anyway, λοιπόν, θα περάσουμε, φαντάζομαι ότι θα έχουμε την δυνατότητα να επικοινωνήσουμε ξανά με τον κύριο Boers.
I believe that we will have the opportunity to listen to Mr. Boers later on for my question. Now we move on to Mr. Kyriakos Pozerkidis, who is the Managing Director of TIP Helexpo and our host. Mr. Pozerkidis, this year we experienced the unprecedented to have Thessaloniki September with no TIP. But it was an excellent way, the way you reacted and you covered this gap. Thank you very much. for inviting me to participate in this panel. What I'm going to do actually is to sum up what we have already mentioned and to provide some figures that will show why it is important to have international affairs. I would like to thank my dear friend Gerald Boise from Cologne. They did excellent work in Cologne. Unfortunately, the decision of the infectionist didn't allow for TIFF to be held, despite the hard work that our friends from Cologne had done to participate in TIFF 2020. I'm very happy to have all the distinguished speakers here talking about event industry and this event organization. It's very important that now we're going to have a specific strategy on the event organization. It is important that the Ministry of Tourism would like to elongate the tourism period throughout the year, and it's very important that the ministry sets this goal as a steady goal. I believe that all our colleagues will agree with that, both our friends from Italy and the president from the USA. What is needed is a different strategy because they are different markets. We are here in order to contribute with the Greek experience, and that's why I mentioned Mr. Kafarakis, who is bringing us the experience from the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. In 2018, the World Union of fairs and exhibitions had 303 million of visitors, 180 countries. The impact, 116 billion concerning the direct impact. What is that direct impact? Whatever has to do with the exhibition center, that is cleaning, security, carpeting. These figures came from the London School of Economics, 116 billion, and these resulted in 1.3 million of employment posts. It's not that the economic impact, it's also the quality impact that helps the unemployment rate. If we also take into account the secondary impact, that is distribution and transport, we reach 275 billion at world level. The greatest share goes to Northern America, and then Europe, 3.2 million of employment posts, and the participation in the global GDP is 167 billion. So if exhibitions was a capitalist country called exhibition land, then they would be ranked in the 76th position of global GDP. It would have higher GDP above Ukraine, Sri Lanka, Kuwait. It is very important the added value provided by exhibition industry to the creation of global wealth. What happened in 2020? All this activity dropped 1/3 after lockdown. So the loss and damage is 158 billion worldwide, 52 of that in Europe. It affected almost 2 million employment posts. They were lost either full-time or part-time. It is estimated that 260 million euros were lost in the contracts that would be held among companies in ITV in Berlin or in fancy food in New York, and they were cancelled. This amounts to 260 million euros. In Thessaloniki, the loss only for the 10 days of TIFF amounts 55 million euros. It's not just we that we are earning here in the exhibition grounds, but also the hoteliers and the restaurant owners. They also earn. And of course, we earn for the old people that died in the old people's homes. And of course, we start talking about digital exhibitions. Yes, we can have a digital exhibition that doesn't demand any infrastructure and any grounds and any venues. It could be organized from a basement in India. What is needed is just a cloud, because the city and the area around around the exhibition. In 2019, Google announced that it had 160 billion revenue from its exhibitions, digital exhibitions, but there was no diffusion and dissemination of this wealth and this profit. We have estimated that based on the turnover that TIFF makes every year, we have estimated that there is a spillover effect to the city of Thessaloniki, and this for 2026 will be 500 million euros. This is what we have estimated, and this will create a lot of jobs. This is really high figure, and as Mr. Frangidis said, it's not just economic infrastructure. We also have social infrastructure. The Janis Center, which is held in the center of Manhattan, where Mr. Kafarakis organizes fancy food, it was turned into a hospital, COVID hospital. In Poland, the pavilions were turned into grounds where they distributed hygiene material. We here in TIFF, we provided our pavilions and grounds to local hospitals or for homeless shelters. So we provide help to the society according to the social needs, as we did when the big earthquake occurred in 1978. Who are our clients and customers? They are both our exhibitors and visitors. Exhibitors is a maths concept as well, as you know. In Greek, it is the same word. In English, it is exponent. So in physical grounds, in physical exhibitions, we have always had an increasing benefit and outcome. That's why exhibitions started from ancient agora. And on the other hand, we also have visitors. They are the visitors, the businesses that visit the exhibition. It's not the user. Users are held in technology industry only, and the word user is also used when we take illegal substances. But we don't want to have users. We want to have visitors and clients and customers. But due to COVID, we must find hybrid models. But we shouldn't forget the physical presence and all the good benefit and impact that exhibitions and fairs have to the city, and move to the other end where we will have only digital exhibitions, because users there are not paid and do not pay. And if you don't pay, what kind of client are you? Perhaps the user is the product. Perhaps they aren't our clients, but they are the clients of those who will try to find feta in America, in the States. No, I want not to see the most popular feta. I want to see all the different types of feta. When I visit the Trop exhibition, I want to see all different types of feta and all small producers. But if an exhibition is digital, what will come out is only the most popular ones. Of course, the digital form helped to the democratization and the exchange of goods. Undoubtedly, technology is good and positive because thanks to that, we have a higher life expectancy. But technology helps extreme voices, of course. So we should create algorithms that will help the real trade and the real operation of exhibitions. And I agree with Gerard, who said that exhibitions will never be substituted. When you go to Institute to see feta, you touch it, you smell it, you see the packaging, you don't see just a video or something on the screen that tells you that it's good, but in the end it's just grass. That's my first comment. I believe that we will overcome this difficult COVID era. Hybrid products help, but we should not forget that physical presence cannot be replaced. We move on right away because we have we won't have much time. We move on to Mr. Phil Kafarakis, who is the president of Specialty Food Association and who combines two sectors that are affected by COVID, both exhibition and catering and food industry. But at some part, food industry was benefited. You're having the floor, Mr. Kafarakis. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be with you today. I feel very proud to be here with you and talk about this important issue because, as my friend, the medical doctor said, the figures are incredible. But I'll speak in English because I would like to provide you some thoughts of mine, not as a former president of the Specialty Food Association, but as somebody who has been in the market for 40 years, more or less.
As the previous and former president of the Specialty Food Association that produces the Fancy Food Show, I learned a lot about what happens in a food show environment. And prior to that, I was a former executive at the National Restaurant Association that puts on the restaurant show in the United States of America. And prior to that, I was an executive as an exhibitor. So the events business is the great equalizer, as you just heard. If you're small, you're on the same footing as if you're very large, because that's your opportunity to be whatever you want to be. So let me start with giving you some details and perspective. The unknown variables in the event business are going to have to be contended with many, many learnings, because we're talking about direct engagement, and shaping the future is something that is already starting to happen with the engagement, the experience. You can't see feta and taste it. You can't smell it. So there's a human component that we need to talk about. But you know what's happening right now and has already happened around the entire world is that this disruptive nature is breeding an environment of accelerated change, and it's creating new behaviors. So one of the things you have to build into your business model is agility. That will become the competitive advantage. Whether you're the Greek government, or whether you're a private enterprise, or whether you're an association, or whether you're a prefecture, doesn't matter. You have to come together and develop agility. The other thing that's going to happen here very quickly, and you see it in the marketplace, is complacency. Complacency will destroy those that are unwilling to accept new norms. So no matter how far you go, whether you want to stick with a virtual environment that you're going to do forever, or you're going to stick to your old periptero and have nothing but a one-on-one event. If you don't have that ability to change, you will be destroyed. So I'm going to share with you some details. I think everybody covered the very strategic notion of what's happening today, what could happen tomorrow. I have 4 perspectives that I'd like to present to you during this period that I call the intermittent reality. It's intermittent because, like everything else, this will go away and we'll have to deal with something new. So the first thing, of course, and it's something that we should all respect, is the health and safety of all the stakeholders. There is no opportunity to cut corners. There's no options to not do some of the protocols that you're seeing today. The fact that millions are dying and we have to respect the lives of those people is really important, but health and welfare clearly is no longer a table stake. You have to do it. And you already see the protocols, and congratulations to the Helexpo team for setting a world-class example of what these new protocols are. The question, though, is it cannot be done individually. The guys in Cologne cannot do one thing. The guys at Helexpo cannot do one thing. The guys at Javits in New York City cannot do one thing. So I would express to you, learn about what is happening in a standard environment. Certifications are already happening. The International Association of Events and Exhibitions, IAEE, has a certification program that provides consistency for all the facilities. It's something that needs to be promoted to all the stakeholders, whether you're an exhibitor, an attendee, or an organizer. You need to be proficient in what the certifications are. There is a need to prepare the attendee, but most importantly, there's a need to educate the exhibitor with what these protocols are. It's in advance, it's pre, on-site, or virtual, we'll talk about that in a minute, and post. Those are the kinds of things that have to be put into your marketing plans, your communication plans, and the awareness for attendees and protocols in advance is critical. These conditions are already being accepted. So taking people's temperature, making sure people are forming a line, they're following the flow, there's a social distancing environment, and the tracking mechanism are standards. People are already starting to be conditioned to accept these things. Can you imagine if you're putting on an event and people don't understand that this is the protocol when they come? What will they do? There's a lot of people that will leave. So it's a part of the business model that shouldn't be forgotten. The other important part of this pre and preparedness piece is it starts to give you more information on your qualified attendees when you're in a business-to-business environment. So now you know a lot more about people because you're gathering all this information. I couldn't come to Greece unless I filled out a tracking form and the Greek government knew exactly where I was going. I gave them more information than I would normally give them. But it's a protocol that now is accepted. It's not something that will be fought over. And I think that's really important because that gives you now more information, and as whether you're an association, whether you're the exhibitor or the attending producer of the show, you've got more information. It also could be a revenue stream when we start talking about the economics of what's going on. The second thing that I want to make sure is brought to your attention is the operating environment. So in an operating forum, you're definitely going to have to leverage exactly what's happening here. You're going to have to leverage technology. The emerging virtual platforms are everywhere, and that's a whole new risk because some people have a real virtual platform that leverages technology, and other people have a made-up element that's going to require you to do some homework. The use of technology, the interactive engagement that technology provides us, these hybrid events are here to stay. If you don't believe that, you're going to be lost. And I think you need to start thinking about the synchronized elements that come together with putting on events. The experiential flow of how things are done. In my mind and through my experience, and again, these are my perspectives and my opinions, they have nothing to do with the Specialty Food Association or the National Restaurant Association. You're going to be breaking it down into several several events. Discover, there's a discover phase, there's a connect phase, and then of course there's a transaction stage that's going to have to happen, and it has to be sequential. And it could be in different parts of a location, and then it could be virtual. But at the end of the day, it's this type of thinking that's going to have to manage how you use every inch of your space. Pods and clusters are going to be the new norm. People are not just going to roam around like they go into a museum, but I think you're going to have to move people in pods and clusters. You're seeing that happening in airports. You're seeing how planes are being debarkation and how people are put on an airplane. It's the same kind of element when you think about how you, whether you're an exhibitor and how you're going to engage your personnel, whether you're the facility locator, whether you're an attendee, and clearly whether you're going to be the producer, whether you're an association or a federation, your membership has to understand that. The other important thing as I get into this is the exhibitor preparedness becomes a new revenue stream for you, adding education to the services you provide, adding tech tools to the services you provide. If you're conducting, if you're Helexpo, why wouldn't you give somebody a virtual experience that they can buy? Why wouldn't you give them an element to be able to engage in a technical platform that you normally wouldn't sell them? Those are things that you need to think about in an economic environment that's going to change. The other important piece is as everybody comes together, the private and public trust, the private entrepreneurship that takes place with the partnerships, insurance and legal considerations are of the utmost importance. In my previous life, as I had to struggle with whether I was going to cancel a very significant show and the facility was being turned into a public use as a hospital, the members were going crazy because they wanted me to cancel the event right now. But the lawyers and the insurance people could not assure me that I was not going to have an economic problem on my hands. So there's a delicate balance between your duty to your members, your exhibitors, your community, and certainly how you're going to act with your event provider. Attending the experience for the attendees, you heard the good doctor say it's an experience. They're customers. They're people that are looking for that thrill ride like in Disney. They have to be able to be engaged and moved along. Think about that model as you bring people through. They stop, they understand there's a virtual component. They move down into the parking lot, maybe that you've turned into a tent where they can touch and taste things. If you go to the hotel and have breakfast, they serve you the food. It's a whole new model that's going to be required in the experience days. And then I'll leave you with this notion of coordination. And one of the wonderful things I can tell you as somebody who grew up in Greece, who loves Greece, who wants to do business in Greece, I am so very proud of how the Greek government is starting to establish synergies and how the Greek government is starting to have συνεννόηση με όλα τα υπουργεία. Και το πιο σπουδαίο που χάρηκα σήμερα μου άνοιξε η καρδιά που γνώρισα μια υπέροχη γυναίκα.
And the most important thing is that
there's just one woman, but let me tell you something. It's so good to see one woman on an all old guy, white guy panel. So I want to close by telling you that we started with this thing being the great equalizer, and it's important you understand that the diversity and a collective approach is establishing new norms now that have to be incorporated. But the one thing I want to leave you with is that our competitor is not us, and individually as competitors. The competitor is this unknown enemy, this unseen phenomenon that has grasped the entire world. And what we learn from this is one world will make us better in serving our communities locally, where our responsibility is, and serving our industries, serving our constituencies, and actually turning it into a profit. Σας ευχαριστώ πάρα πολύ που, κύριε Πρόεδρε και αγαπητέ.
Thank you. I would like to thank the President and my dear friends who invited me here. Κουράγιο για το τι θα γίνει. Courage.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ, κύριε Καφαράκη.
Thank you, Mr. Kafarakis. And now we move on to the last speaker, the speakers who are here, we will listen to Mr. Theodoros Vokos, who is the managing director of Posidonia Exhibitions. This is a big event that has a lot of parallel events, social and shipping events. I would like to thank the organizers for honoring me, to invite me to participate in this forum. And I would like to congratulate them on what they have managed to succeed in such short term. We're talking about the digital transformation of exhibitions, but before we bury the traditional exhibitions, I would like to talk about practical transformation. My objection is the following. The whole commercial activity has restarted with limitation and restrictions, of course. The commercial centers, schools, flights, only exhibitions and events are closed. And I'm trying to understand why is this happening? Why have we targeted exhibitions? Exhibitions operate having the same norms as shopping centers. You can have limited amount of people getting in, and there are specific corridors where you walk, and when you enter a pavilion, it is just like entering a shop in a shopping center. The same safety norms exist in the exhibition center, and they are even higher because we will have foreign guests. However, the rebooting and restarting of exhibitions haven't started yet. Probably because they were international, but the cruises have started once again. Cruises again is a closed area. 3,000 people are together in one ship. They stop at the local destination. They go out. They see. They get in touch with local population. And they come in contact with local population. I'm very happy that the cruises business reopened again, and I'm happy from MSC and TUI who bring people to Iraklio. That has just happened. Our Greek tourism organization has started participating in international events. So we are the only ones here in Greece who are still not organizing exhibitions. I would like to ask the government to give us the opportunity to prove that we have all necessary safety standards with fewer people, of course, but we can have the traditional form of exhibitions, and these exhibitions to start right away. The more we are away from the market, we forget, the customer forgets the benefit that he would have. If a company hasn't participated in an exhibition for 2 years, it's difficult to convince it later on to give 30,000 from their budget to participate. Let us now move on to the digital transformation aspect. It's a necessary tool, but it shouldn't be one way. It could reinforce exhibitions. The hybrid model is inevitable, but it's not adequate and enough. The exponential benefit of exhibitions is important. It's not enough for us to sell an online pavilion. And at what price would you sell it? 1/20th of your turnover, and it will provide no benefit to local economy. So why not try to see how this will work worldwide? Globally, exhibitions have started working once again in Japan, in Germany, in China. Why not here in Greece? The government from the beginning handled the crisis very well. and tourism has started operating. The whole business activity has rebooted and restarted. Let us start exhibitions once again. We will only have benefit. As I can see, the people who are here have observed all safety measures. People are trained. If people go to the commercial center, to the shopping center, they are sprayed, they use masks, they keep distances. Why shouldn't they do it in exhibitions? In practice, this is a new way for thinking. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vokos. I was informed that we can be connected. We will be connected to Mr. Pietro Pizzinetti, the president of Fiera di Roma. I would like to ask a very brief question. A question not to political people. I believe that digital has another dimension. Digital crime is also reinforced. So there is increased need to safeguard people and users against digital criminals. We have increase of 100% of malware in 2020, especially after COVID onset. Think of big digital events, the online criminals operating as submarines, and the big events, exhibition events, being like the ships that go through the sea, and they never know when the bomb will reach them. Have you thought of protecting the businesses that will participate in these digital events? I believe that Mr. Kafarakis would like to say something. It is correct what you're saying. And as I've said earlier, there are several companies that provide platforms. What is important is that these new platforms are new competencies.
The partner with very credible and recognized partners who understand these things. The problem is going to be in the economics. You're going to have to pay more for something that's going to be much more secure and risk adverse. I would tell you that this is not an area to be cheap in. Make sure you have excessive analysis and review of your partner, because you will need a partner. You can't do it on your own. And there's some great 20-year-olds that know how to do these things, but I would caution you, make sure you're operating with someone that's very credible and has global guidelines.
Ναι. Κύριε Ποζερκίδη.
Mr. Pouzerkidis, can you comment on that? Yes, that's important because there are more risks, both physical and digital risks. Yes, undoubtedly, we should protect not only our own organizations, but we should protect our clients, our visitors, and attendees. We shouldn't turn our attendees and visitors into products. We shouldn't let malware software to exist there. What is needed is specialized knowledge so that we will be able to protect our exhibition agencies as well as our clients, who are thousands, and finally the consumer and public health. While we have the transition from the physical exhibition to to the digital exhibition. Who is the winner? Is it the big business or the small business that might be benefited because it can do impressive things equal to the big company that would spend more in having a big physical pavilion. But in the digital world, there is no difference between pavilions. And probably a big company wouldn't like to have a big pavilion. Undoubtedly, it is the big company that is benefited. SMEs start from one exhibition event because we said that the exhibition events are have exponential power. In Western type of economies, they have established networks. The whole branding field occurs through established networks that are controlled. So an SME from a small city in Italy, in Germany, in Greece, how can they show their product? Do they have their product? Do they have the means, financial means, know-how, human resources? I believe that the big businesses are benefited, undoubtedly, and this is unfair. And doesn't allow small producers to show their product as they could in the TIFF, the Thessaloniki International Fair, because big international companies don't participate in big fairs and exhibitions because they have their own branding. There is no need for them to participate in that. Big international companies have their own networks. Could you have digital rowing events? Very, very difficult. The parallel events that occur during Posidonia exhibitions want to bring the shipping industry closing. That is to give more opportunities for networking to attendees. That's the greatest challenge for digital platforms. A lot of digital services are held in the shipping industry, but physical contact is missing. What is needed in the shipping industry is time for discussion, time for signatures, and this can occur only when you have a personal physical contact. You can't order online. You can't order a tanker online. We still haven't found ways to have a network, digital networking to people. We have the pleasure to host Mr. Pietro Pizzinetti, who is the president of Fiera di Roma. Good morning, Mr. Pizzinetti.
Good morning from Greece, from Thessaloniki. You're the president of Fiera di Roma, which have suffered great pain.
And that time, Greek time, Italian time. Good morning. Good morning, all of you.
You're the president of Fiera di Roma of Italy, which have suffered a great pain from the COVID-19 pandemic. And what were the consequences in the exhibition field in Italy? And what is your opinion in the subject of we're discussing about the digital transformation of exhibitions?
Hello, I can't hear anything.
Αν μπορεί να μας ακούσει, μπορούμε τεχνικά να το καλύψουμε αυτό, να μας ακούσει ο κύριος Πετσινέτη. I said, do you hear me now?
Tell us about your experience of exhibitions and COVID-19, and what is your suggestion on this issue?
All of you again. My experience with COVID and exhibition is really bad as your because practically from end of February we stop all the activity, and we try to open a little bit right now in September in order to organize some events digital, virtual, as you're exactly the same that you're doing this morning, and congratulations. But practically for all of our industry, I'm vice president of the Italian Exhibition and Fair Association. We lost the years practically because also Milano and all our colleagues, we couldn't make anything, because the problem is not only the COVID, the rules, because our government, our central government and the regional government issue some rules. Respect the square meters in order to, and some rules to follow in order to organize some events. But the problem is we have enough practically international flight, and then mostly our exhibition are international, and then we cannot do anything. And also the people that are scared. For instance, our customers, our expositors, they are really scared about to organize even the stand, And then, unfortunately, a really, really bad experience is, I think, as you suffer, we are in the middle of a very nightmare, We do hope that our government open a fund in order to restore all the turnover, the majority of the turnover. And then we asking our government to open a special fund to restore only for exhibition, because all of us, we are practically stop all the, activity. This is the real situation, Clevos.
What do you believe will happen concerning the digital exhibitions? Due to COVID, we keep on talking about the digital exhibitions. What do you think will happen? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I will rephrase. I thought you have the translation.
You can get it. But
I will say it in English. What is your opinion in the subject of the digital transformation of the exhibition subject we are talking about, the digital transformation of exhibitions?
Under my opinion, the exhibitions are made to be physical, not virtual at all. And then, of course, virtually can help us now in the very dramatic moment. But I really do hope that our industry can switch again to physically events very soon. Certainly, all of us, we had now the platform, all of us, we had the experience to organize the virtual. And then thanks for this experience, we can, in the future, we can do something together with the physical events, some virtual platform. For instance, we study with our government to have a platform for all of our exhibition industry to open a different area and then to maintain the exhibition all years. And then, but to stress to have a physically events. Again, for our opinion, meeting industry has been the name of the meeting industry because to be together. And then the fair, since the first Expo in Paris, international in Paris 200 years ago, we have to make physically, And then, under my opinion, as soon as we get out from this nightmare COVID time, we will be back to organize physical events.
Last question, do you have the possibility to to begin the exhibitions again without the vaccine in the...
No, unfortunately, you are right. We had to wait the vaccine because, as I told you before, most of the people, they are scared in order to organize, to be also to have a stand, you know, to meet some other people. And then because if you switch on the TV, only COVID. You switch on the newspaper. If you read the newspaper every morning, COVID. If you talk in the radio, COVID. I mean, we are focalized on the COVID problem. And then this is also a psychological approach that is really negative. And unfortunately, our sector as a tourism, business tourism, we are the sector that most suffered for this kind of problem. And then, unfortunately, we gotta wait the vaccine, and then my opinion is that the reality starts by end of 2020, the 2021. Since the 3 months ago, I was convinced that could be start again the business in spring 2021, but now, if you look in the possibility to have vaccine and also to restart the international flight and connection, I think we gotta wait at the end of 2021, and then we have to be prepared to pass the 2021 almost at the same condition that now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Piccinetti. Greetings.
Thank you to all of you. Sorry again to join late.
Ευχαριστούμε πολύ τον πρόεδρο της...
We would like to thank Mr. Piccinetti, who is the president of Fiera di Roma. President, I would like to ask one joint question for the three political executives of the panel. I would like to ask all of you to try to avoid the ideological aspect of the question. Could you please give us the practical approach? The press space agreement was an issue raised during the discussion. Exhibitions are a field where a lot of political ideas are presented. Recently, we saw the issue of the branding of Macedonian products. We saw what businesses from our neighbor state launched complaints against Greek companies. How can we overcome the fact that the press agreement has left some pending issues that haven't been concluded? So how can we tackle this issue at economical level? Because we will have to face business people from our neighboring country, Northern Macedonia. In my presentation, I talked about the impact that it would have on, I said that press space agreement would have an impact on the exhibition field. We must have a co-development of the whole Balkan Peninsula because it would push our country upwards. Why? Because our country is the first economy. So talking about our relationship with the country of North Macedonia, the commercial, the business relations, I believe that we should have self-confidence. The press space agreement in this aspect set the framework within which set the framework to settle the pending issues that existed so far. The fact that Macedonian products existed all over the world and we did nothing about it. So the Prespas agreement set the framework for that. But I believe that we must have self-confidence. We are the strong player in this game. This was shown immediately after this signing of the agreement. When I went to Skopje then with the then Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. Tsipras, where we saw that there are a lot of Greek business people in Skopje. So we are the strong player. We must try to do our best to have co-development. Mr. Frangidis. I would like to link exhibitions, fairs with tourism because just 1 minute. We don't have the luxury to praise ourselves. The situation is hard. Tourism has been greatly suffered by coronavirus. In 2019, we had 31 million visitors, 18.5 billion of income. Now it's just 3.5 million. So we have a lot of people whose jobs are affected, jobs that have to do with exhibitions and tourism. And right now, although we aren't talking, we should be talking about overcoming this barrier. Now, about the agreement. No, I asked about Macedonian products. Yes, the Prespas agreement has some important negative elements. One of that is the Macedonian products. We here in Greece have a serious problem, a huge problem, because they come out and use the Macedonian name in their products, and when we export our products, we have a problem. What does this mean? It means that all political forces should not have hidden agreements, because these are issues of national importance, and we should have one national line on that. All political forces in Greece should sit down at the same table, discuss these issues, so that all Northern Greek producers who have products that are exported to be able to do that freely. Mrs. Loizou, this issue went under the carpet due to COVID. But when COVID is over, we will still have this the problem of the branding of Macedonian products. What can we do about it? I think there is a wrong impression created here. Macedonian products are supported by Greece. Our government has done its best in order to have the Macedonian product brand. Yes, that's right. But what will happen when the next TIF occurs, when our neighbors will come and name their products as Macedonian products? Because they are against the branding that we made Macedonia the Great. As Secretary General for Tourism, I will talk about what we're trying to do. We want to link tourism with agricultural products and gastronomy, and an overall policy that will be able to reinforce local economy. And in this way, Greek products will be so well known that all of us will be able to know which are Macedonian products, what is their quality, and they will be so competitive that they won't have to so that we won't have to be afraid of Northern Macedonia. What I want to say is the following. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs does its best, and the government of Mr. Mitsotakis does its best in order to mitigate all negative points that might have existed in the Prespes agreement. We move on forward. We don't look back. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been working systematically and does its best. And we, the Ministry for Tourism, the Ministry for Development and Agricultural Production, do their best so that our economy and product will be the best in the world and can be promoted in the whole world. Thank you very much. Mr. Boese, I think you should have the honor to close this discussion.
Your digital experience, because in Germany you have digital expedition very, very often, and is there any safety? We were discussing a little ago about safety matters during digital expedition, because we have very raised subjects about criminality in the web, hitting in companies which they're communicating through internet, through digital expeditions. Do you have safety matters for digital expeditions?
Yes, of course, we have put safety matters in place, and also during last year, there were some cyber attacks to big organizers in Germany, and also we suffered a couple of attacks on our platforms, and sometimes not only attacks, but also through mails, which are distributed to our daughter companies worldwide, and which are asking my managing directors to transfer some money from A to B with my signature. So we have various attacks on different fields, but after all, particularly in Germany and in Europe, you know, these very strict data protection rules. We cannot distribute our data, and we cannot use, of course, our data as we sometimes would like to, because from intellectual property rights also to the right of having the power of your contacts and your address, there are a lot of restrictions, and thanks God, up to now, we did not have any bigger criminal issue by misusing our platforms or even breaking down our platforms. We have invested a lot in cyber defending IT, of course. So our firewalls are up to now pretty tough.
And a last question, a last very short question. How do you see the possibility to recreate the cancelled German participation in Thessaloniki International Expo after 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, of course, we would like to repeat this participation, but this final decision is made from AUMA in Berlin, because they are giving us the financial supports, and they're giving the financial support to German companies. And so the last decision is made by the politicians, and unfortunately not by the trade fair organizers. So, of course, we have put a good benchmark with 60 exhibitors that shows that the German economy is very interested in foster the economic relations to Greece. But it has to be evaluated and decided by the politicians in Berlin.
Mr. Boes, thank you very much. Greetings to Germany.
Thank you.
Ευχαριστούμε όλους τους
We would like to thank all our speakers, Mr. Barbitsiotis, Mr. Bournous, Mr. Frangidis, Mrs. Loizou, Mr. Boyce from Cologne, Mr. Petro Pizzinetti, Mr. Posrikidis, Mr. Kafarakis, and Mr. Vokos. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. I think we have gone far beyond our time. Thank you.